a sonnet for the lustful. That's what we're going to explore today. But before we do, I want to preface this by saying that this is not just any sonnet. It's not just any poem. What I believe this is the most profound 14 lines in the English language ruminating on lust. And so we're going to explore that. But also, again, right before we get into it, perhaps we ask the question, why? Well, if you know me, if you know this channel at all, you know that I really believe in the power of truly beautiful art, whether that be music, literature, poetry, what have you, to reveal insights about who we are and about our experience in the world. And so this particular poem, I think, is incredibly enlightening and it's entertaining as well. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to recite this particular sonnet, and then afterwards we'll go line by line and analyze it together, because at least speaking from my own experience, the first time that I heard this poem, I didn't totally grasp it. And I had to sit with it for a while to really come to understand it. But I believe that an understanding of this sonnet will help you better understand your own experience and better manage your relationship to the world, for lack of a better way of saying. So let's go ahead and jump in to Sonnet 129 by none other than William Shakespeare. The expense of spirit and a waste of shame is lust in action. And till action, lust is perjured, murd'rous, bloody, full of blame, savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust, enjoyed no sooner but despised straight, past reason hunted, and no sooner had, past reason hated, as a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad. Mad in pursuit, and in possession so, had, having, and in quest to have, extreme. A bliss in proof, improved a very woe. Before, a joy proposed, behind, a dream. All this the world well knows, yet none knows well, to shun the heaven that leads men to this hell. So, that was the expense of spirit and a waste of shame is lust in action. Now, perhaps when you hear that, several thoughts run through your head. Maybe you think, all right, I kind of get what he's getting at, but there are some other things that I don't understand. Maybe it's, what the heck is this even going on? Or perhaps you just understood the whole thing, in which case, congratulations, you did far better than I did. But let's go line by line and start to crack this open and see what it can teach us. So we'll begin with the expense of spirit and a waste of shame is lust in action. Now, what this is saying is the expense of spirit. We'll begin with that. The expense of spirit is twofold. It's on a physical level and on a metaphysical level. So expense of spirit in Shakespeare's time could have been taken to be understood as a physical sense, the literal sexual climax. Okay? But also it's expense of spirit and beyond the physical realm, in a more metaphysical, pouring out of oneself, of one's soul, if you will. And in a waste of shame is simply in a shameful waste. So the expense of spirit given out in a shameful waste, that is lust. That's what Shakespeare's starting with. He's saying lust is the wasteful giving away of the spirit. And moving from there, he says, the expense of spirit and waste of shame is lust in action. And until action, so now basically what we have is a framing of the poem where he's moving backwards. So we've opened with the explosion in a movie where people are running away from a building. You see, something destruct behind them. And then suddenly the movie pauses and it rewinds and says, all right, how do we get here? That's what Shakespeare's doing. So expense of spirit and a waste of shame is lust in action. And till action, lust is perjured, murd'rous, bloody, full of blame, savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust. He strings together these 1 and 2 syllable words. And at first glance, you might say, all right, great, I could do that. And yes, you could, which is kind of the point. Because what we see Shakespeare doing here is he's not trying at all to be poetic about this. He's not trying to to string together beautiful and profound words. He's simply doing what we do ourselves when we're in a high tension emotional situation. So to kind of illustrate this, what I can say is, imagine if you're really upset with someone and maybe you go off and you call them names. I hope this doesn't happen too much, but we can see this play out in people's lives. Something does something to you. It's, oh, you smelly, no good, scoundrel, backstabbing, this, that, the other. You start to string together these adjectives that compound your emotion because you have no other way of putting it. And so Shakespeare, by doing this in the sonnet, what he's really portraying is a visceral reaction to what just happened. You can almost imagine the poet rolling over after had this experience and just going, oh, perjured, murd'rous, bloody, full of flame, savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust, just going on and on and on in this, again, visceral reaction to what just happened. So, strings together those syllables, and then we move to enjoyed no sooner, but despised straight. Basically saying, no sooner is this enjoyed than it is immediately despised. Enjoyed no sooner, but despised straight. Past reason hunted, and no sooner had, past reason hated. Now, this is a fun one. So, past reason hunted, what we have is past reason hunted, past reason in two senses. So, in one sense of the term reason, we have it's past reason as in it's irrational. Like, why are you even pursuing this? Why are you even hunting this? Because it's just irrational that you even hunted in the first place. So past reason hunted, but also past reason hunted in the sense of you are pursuing it in an irrational, over-the-top manner. You're pursuing it too much. So it is A, irrational that you're pursuing this thing, and B, the way you're going about it is over the top and extreme. So that's what we have. We have past reason hunted and no sooner had, past reason hated. This is more the second sense of that reason, not so much the irrational aspect of it, but more so the past reason over the top hated. No sooner had, past reason hated, as a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad. Now, this is perhaps my favorite part of this sonnet, and there are two reasons why. I'll start with the first, which is the image that it provokes. So what we have is the image, obviously, of a fish going to swallow bait. Perhaps you've been fishing, you know that you bait your hook, throw it in the water, and wait for fish to come, basically. And so imagine yourself as the fish. Now, if you're swimming through the water and you see something good, your mindset is going to be, oh wow, there's my food, I just found it. And you're thinking, I'm going to go eat that thing, I'm going to consume it, I'm going to devour it. However, in the instant you bite it, in the instant you attain the goal that you sought after, you realize that you've been had. You realize that, oh no, actually, I am the prey. I was hunted. And you realize that you are going to be consumed. You are the one who is being devoured. And that's the image that Shakespeare provokes with this, as a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad. And not only that, not only the image that we have, but also just the incredible wordplay. So, for example, what we have is the vowel sounds that make it sound nice. So swallowed bait, purpose laid. But also we have the consonants. Now, if we go into linguistics a little, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I personally find it very intriguing. The consonants at the end of bait and laid are the same, because the way that air projects through your mouth to form a consonant T or D is the same exact way. The air goes through your mouth, hits your teeth in the same exact fashion. However, what makes them sound different is that a D is what we call a voiced consonant. So you're actually backing up the air with your throat, with your vocal strings. Whereas a T just comes solely through your mouth, but a D also resonates in your throat, so it's voiced consonant. But it's the same exact consonantal, if that's even a word, consonantal sound, okay? So what we have is a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad, and that just sounds nice as well, not only because of the alliteration of the vowel sounds, but also because he's having the beat. So it was a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad. Just a fun little line. But moving on from that, we have mad in pursuit and in possession so. Essentially saying in possession so is just saying, and also as much mad as in pursuit, as in possession the same. So mad in pursuit, kind of mad in the sense of crazy. You're crazy in pursuit after this, but once you have it, perhaps the meaning of mad changes a little bit and it becomes more frustration, or maybe it's even a furtherance of that craziness, but not in the sense of over the top mad in pursuit, but almost a mad of just you start to break down in a sense. Again, very visceral. So mad in pursuit and in possession so, and then had, having, and in quest to have, extreme. Now, what I like about this is that I'm going to introduce this concept and come back to it. But basically, what we've had most of this poem is a continuance, a linear continuance in terms of time. So we have start, end, okay? The beginning of lust, the middle of lust, and the end, or afterwards. So what we have in the line prior is mad in pursuit and in possession so. So if this is, I'm going to try to lay this out visually. If this is before lust, this is the moment of lust, the expensive spirit, and this is after lust. What we have in the first line is mad in pursuit and in possession so, and then he walks backwards. He goes, had, having, and in quest to have, extreme. All right, I'll come back to that in a second, but it's something about the temporal aspect of this poem that I really enjoy. So had, having, and in quest to have, extreme. A bliss in proof, and proved a very well. Now, this is fairly straightforward. Basically, proof, the way it was used more so in Shakespeare's time, was to say in action. So show me the proof or prove this to me is really saying, do this. If you're going to prove it, do it. And so that's basically Shakespeare saying, in the doing of it, a bliss in proof, in the doing of it, in proved having been done, a very woe, a source of grief. And then he sums it all up immaculately with before a joy proposed, behind a dream. Now, when I first heard this, what I got out of it was a dream. Well, doesn't that just go against everything he just said? Because he's talking about how awful, lust is, and then he ends up with, and afterwards a dream. But what I had to realize is that it's not dream in the positive sense, in the sense that you or I might talk about, our dreams, what we want to do, or how was your vacation? Oh, it was a dream. No, what he's actually saying is the nature of a dream. So let's paint this picture. When we dream, we create these vivid worlds, these imaginary creations of our mind that are so incredibly realistic. They feel real, they feel vivid, they feel passionate. But yet, in the literal blink of an eye, when we wake up in the morning, they dissipate. It's almost like something blows, the cloud of smoke just immediately disappears. That's how a dream just disappears in the literal blink of an eye. So that's what Shakespeare's saying. And he sums it up, again, puts it in time with just two words, before, behind. Before, a joy proposed. Behind, a dream just fades away. And so I'm going to, before we get to the last couplet, I'll just go back to this idea of the timing of this poem. So what we had is so remember, this is before lost, in the midst of lux, the expensive spirit, and then afterwards, okay? So we have mad in pursuit, and in possession so, had, having, and in quest to have, extreme. A bliss in proof, and proved a very well, before a joy proposed, behind a dream. And then he sums it up with a beautiful couplet. In this the world well knows, yet none knows well, to shun the heaven that leads men to this hell. Basically what we have here is not only just the realism of it, but also an incredible alliteration that mirrors itself. So it's the sounds, the world well knows, WWN, and then NNW. The world well knows, yet none knows well. It rolls off the tongue. But none knows well to shun the heaven that leads men to this hell. And what we have here is also a double sense of to know. It's know in the sense of none knows literally how to do it, but it's also know in the sense of they don't know that they should do it. So there's a combination and perhaps a potential ambiguity of that to kind of figure out how that applies to your situation. But all the world well knows, yet none knows well, to shun the heaven that leads men to this hell. This, I believe, is an immaculate description of lust. And I believe it's really important to study this type of work because it just shows how profound, in 14 lines, someone can describe an emotion vividly, passionately, articulately, poignantly, in a way that really resonates with us and brings it to life in such an incredible fashion. I think particularly of the imagery of the fish, or of the swallowed bait, rather, I should say. But to conclude all this, I'll say two things. The first is that if you like this video, then please actually give it a like and leave me a comment to let me know that you'd like more of this content. But then also, if this resonates with you, I highly encourage you to actually take time to memorize it. Now, personally, I've memorized several Shakespearean sonnets, and they have made my life incredibly rich. And the reason is, when we memorize something, we allow it to sit with us. It's not the simple consuming of it. It's not consumption. So if you were to only watch this YouTube video and click off, you would have learned something. Maybe you go and read the poem, and that's it. It comes, it goes, it's consumed, it's done with. But when you memorize a poem, it sits with you, and it churns in the back of your mind. It's like a soup that's made to simmer for hours, almost in a crock pot. And as it sits with you, you start to get more of its flavor and beauty. I'm really going weird with this metaphor, but it really starts to connect with you in a deep manner, and you connect with it. So there are a couple Shakespeare sonnets I can think of that I've had memorized for close to a decade, and I still get something new out of them every time I visit them. I can't tell you how many times I've been walking through the park in London and just playing with the words, not only in the way that they roll off the tongue, but what they make you think of, the new angles that you can take on it each time. And so it's something that, if this is something that resonates you, I highly, highly recommend that you take some time to go ahead and memorize this sonnet, or maybe some others. Again, if you like this, let me know if you'd like to see more of this. Leave me a comment. But in the meantime, Sonnet 129 by William Shakespeare, a true master of the English language. I hope this has been inspiring. I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.